leadership is not a popularity contest. If you want to be popular, sell ice cream.
We are in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and we're going to be talking to the head football coach of LSU, Brian Kelly. Coach Kelly was me and my brother's head football coach at the University of Notre Dame, and we're going to be talking to him all things leadership and how he is the CEO of his program. Let's go talk to Coach Kelly. All right, we're with the head coach of LSU, Brian Kelly. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Will. Pleasure.
Yeah. I wanted to know your role right now is head coach of the LSU football team, but I think most people think of that as X's and O's and coaching on the field, but in what ways is your role more of a CEO?
Well, I think that term CEO, takes on so many different forms. For me, I've always been leading a football program, 33 years of doing this. I just think at different stages of your career, it takes on a different form. You're right, I'm not heavily into the X's and O's, although the playbook has my fingerprint and DNA over it. I spend much more time on the sports science, the recovery. I spend a lot more time on the relationships with the players. I think some CEOs have to spend a lot of time with the X's and the O's because of where they are in their career. I think where I'm at in my career, that is my best path to success right now.
Public companies, major organizations, leaders of those organizations face a lot of scrutiny. Mm-hmm. Sports is a bit of a different animal. What's your approach to dealing with that outside noise? Because you've faced a lot of scrutiny throughout your whole career, but you've always dampened that with success and winning. So I'm interested in how you address all of that yourself.
Well, I think you have to put it in perspective. Leadership is one where, if you want to be popular, sell ice cream. It's not one where it's a popularity contest as much as it is, empowering those that are around you, leading those that are around you, getting them to be the best versions of themselves and not worrying about the criticism. It's about, getting a program, a football program in this instance, to excel, both inside and out. So you'll never really get a chance to explain yourself, so don't worry about it. Move on to the things that you have control over. So the Tiger Walk is when we get dropped off at the top of the hill, and we walk down amongst our fans. Yeah. And so I wear a different pair for every Tiger Walk, and invariably nobody goes, "Oh, hey, you were coach of the year 3 times?" They don't care about that stuff. They go, "Look at these, man, those are sweet, coach. You must be cool." None of this matters.
Wait a minute, what about this?
None of this matters. So you got to have the Tiger shoes.
Speaking of which, 3 coach of the year, no one's done it, right?
I guess not.
And then, can we zoom in real quick on this one? This is the year that Coach Kelly coached me.
Yes.
And,
see how he helped me get coach of the year.
You're welcome.
So let's get Will involved right away.
So I got to bring up ND.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a big part of my career.
Yeah. So when you left Notre Dame, you had to weigh the pros and cons of leaving it, the risk reward. What advice would you give to leaders of high-profile organizations when they're weighing that option of, should I stay in this organization? You had a lot of success there. I might make the argument now that both organizations, Notre Dame and LSU, have a good shot to win a national championship with the 12-team playoff, NIL, the portal, et cetera. So I'm interested in how you weighed that option and how other leaders should approach heavy decisions like that.
Well, it's a good question. I think when you look at, making changes within, your own personal development and growth, sometimes it's not just about you. It's about the people that are around you as well. And as you know, Notre Dame was going through a period of change. And so sometimes in a leadership position, you're looking at transition as well. And so, you're weighing, is it a good time for me to be part of that transition? So I think you don't necessarily look at just your own situation, but you look at the tenor of the entire organization and the entire university in this instance. And so there wasn't anything about Notre Dame that I didn't love or didn't enjoy being part of. It was about timing, and felt like the timing was right for me to move on to another challenge.
When you left each organization, when you went from Grand Valley to Central Michigan, Cincy, Notre Dame to LSU, have you ever had any moment where you thought, I wish I would have done that differently, or I wish I would have approached it differently, or are you just forward?
Well, the nature of this business, as you know, the timing is never good because it always happens at the end of the season, and it always happens on somebody else's time. In other words, that other university is wanting to hire you, and they want to do it quickly because they don't have a head coach, and they want to bring you in so you can exactly so you can start recruiting, so you can get moving. Whereas where you're at, they're in a good position. They have great continuity. They're successful, and so the timing is always horrible. I remember leaving Cincinnati and going to Notre Dame. I was at the Cincinnati football banquet when the news leaked that I was going to Notre Dame. Of course, none of the players at Cincinnati were crazy about that situation. And so everywhere that I've gone, it has been a very difficult move because of the timing. And then the next school wanting to get the jump, so to speak. Notre Dame wanted to get the jump on Cincinnati. LSU wanted to get the jump on Notre Dame, and so on and so on. So it's you have to bring that into the kind of overall decision-making process as well, knowing this is going to be uneasy when a decision is made.
I had mentioned, again, no offense, but you are the elder statesman right now, one of them in college football.
Yep.
How do you continue, you mentioned 7 straight 10-win seasons. How do you continue to innovate your program when you've already had a lot of success at this level? Who do you draw inspiration from?
I think personally, stay curious, always thinking about being innovative. There are some head coaches that think they've figured it out. I'm always looking for reasons that can make us better. Sports science, for example. What are our players like? Keeping them involved in the conversation, and myself in the conversation with them. So stay curious about what's going on, and I think that keeps you, in the spirit of things, and keeps you current.
Plus the shoes.
The shoes, you gotta have.
Gotta have cool shoes.
You gotta have the right shoes.
Yeah.
If you don't have the right shoes, you're out of it.
I understand NIL. Sure. But I also am super confused by it. Can you just give me an overview of the general outline of how it works? Because it seems like the Wild West right now.
Yeah. NIL is such a complicated and ever-moving piece that since revenue sharing now will be part of what we are looking at in 2025, NIL will really be about those premier names that are in your program that will be able to get out in the community and really take advantage of their name, image, and likeness. Other than that, it's going to be revenue sharing. So the collectives then will begin to shrink because a lot of the money now will be generated through the university, and the university will then move that money to the student athletes. So we're talking about a different set of guidelines as it relates to NIL starting next year. The collectives, because they were third party, opened up agents. And so every player had an agent that was dealing through a third party. And you had no idea what that looked like. Now with the revenue sharing piece, you know that everybody is in a similar ballpark relative to what it would be like in an NFL salary cap situation.
Right.
So this is going to bring some sanity back into what is now a different, an entirely different market, because the players are getting revenue sharing, but it's one now that we can deal directly with the players.
Do you think it's good for college football at the end of the day?
Players are still motivated by the same things. They still want to develop. They still want the team camaraderie. They still want to play the game because they love the aspects of what this game represents. The distractions are so much more. And one of the biggest distractions certainly was the financial piece. And we can really help with that now with the revenue sharing piece. So I like that part. Now we can help them get their parents to the game. Mm-hmm. We can help them with transportation and housing and things of that nature, which can get them, I think, back to getting your degree and help them get back to playing the game and developing and getting better at what you love to do the most. Mm-hmm. And so I think we can bring this thing back to where it started. And even though there is a financial, piece to it, the universities are footing that because they have been the ones that have, been getting, the compensation for it. So I think it's a good thing.
The style of coaching, how much has that changed, again, from 15 years ago to now? And how much do you think that's you just changing it, and how much do you think that's just the game is changing?
This is the piece that, when you talked about, where was that change for you as a CEO? I put a lot of my time into the sports science piece because that's where I felt like I could best influence the outcomes. This is a recovery suite. So this is where, the Nortec, the sleeves that you put in, so you can do that in here. And then these are our sleep pods.
It's like a Silicon Valley
experience,
yeah,
right?
It is.
Hydro massage units in here where they can just lay on these, and full massage units. So this is a recovery suite for all the guys in here. This will fit 12 to 15 for full recovery. This is going to be podcasts. So this will be their own.
It's wild. Yeah.
This will be their own area where they can brand themselves. You can't have a branding without
a barbershop.
You got to have your own barbershop here, right? Equipped with the purple barber chairs.
This is unreal.
Right?
So, how much is it? Like, is it challenging to, like, we're talking about guys who are under 23, under 22. And they have these big brands themselves. Is that tough for you to manage?
Well, I would say that when it becomes a distraction to what the real purpose is. And the real purpose for them here is to get a degree and play for championships. That's the vision here. If it starts to distract you from that, then we got to go say, hey, wait.
Yeah, you're off now.
We're off, right? Let's get back on center here.
Yeah.
And I think that's how we keep them checked.
Obviously, you're investing into the great facilities you are, but also it's about NIL opportunity and player development. So how much is...
I would say that the programs that don't have these pieces are not in the big game. Having the ability to keep your players together. So when they come over here, and we get them, we got them.
Yeah.
Like they're here.
Right.
So we can be with them, really build stronger relationships with them. And look, that's where I was talking about. This is about retention too, right? In this era of being able to transfer,
right.
It's not only recruit them, it's not only develop them, you gotta retain them. And if you retain them, then you can have success. If you can't get the retention,
they're going to bail.
They're going to bail.
Is it difficult to develop a player who's not getting much playing time? Maybe they're not getting much NIL opportunity at the current moment, but they have great potential to. Mm-hmm. And maybe they want to bounce and get that opportunity now. Do you find that challenging, that conflict right there where they can leave right away? There are endless opportunities.
You would have to be within your program outstanding at showing how you can develop players. Mm-hmm. And that's what this is all about here. For me, this was about player development. My quarterback's the great example of that, Garrett Nussmeier. He waited for his chance to be the starting quarterback here. He very easily could have been a starter somewhere else while Jaden Daniels
last year.
Last year. Yeah. Jaden Daniels was, the Heisman Trophy winner, but, Garrett Nussmeier could have started at 8 or 9 other SEC schools. He waited for that opportunity because he saw he was being developed while he was here. it really puts the onus on programs to be great at developing all of their players. And if you don't, you're going to feel that effect of guys jumping into the transfer portal and saying, you know what, I'm going to go somewhere where I can be developed. And I don't think that's a bad thing. You should take players that expect to be developed and want to be developed. And if you're not doing that job, you run the risk of guys getting into the portal and transferring out of your institution.
Do you think there should be some restriction on the transfer portal? Do you think there's too much movement?
I do.
Because I think there's too much movement.
I do.
Kind of, yeah.
I think right now it's too easy for a third party to go, hey, I got a spot for you. If it doesn't open up in December, I probably can get you one in May.
Yeah.
You know, and then how do you get committed to something? But if you shrink that and say, okay, there's only one opportunity,
right.
and it's 30 days, well, you better have a spot, and you better be
Have
sure
real
that it's a real conversation and you have one instead of, well, I think there's something out there.
Right.
That changes things a little bit.
Do you find there to be a conflict of like, I need to recruit players and actively be on the recruiting trail, but I'm also having to manage the engagement of players who I mentioned earlier, maybe they're not getting enough playing time right now, maybe their NIL opportunities so right now, and maybe they do want to bounce, but you also have to focus on the new recruits. Is that a challenge for you to keep the engagement going?
Think about December. December, you're trying to win a championship, right? So you got your team, right? Then you got guys that want to go into the transfer portal. You're trying to bring in maybe guys from the transfer portal, plus you're recruiting a freshman class.
Right.
And guys that are thinking about going to the NFL.
Right.
So you have 5 things going on at one time. If we can try to focus on maybe one less there, that's going to be very helpful to the relationship building. Because I still think it comes back to, if you build genuine relationships with these guys and you show that you've got a plan for them, they're not going to jump all over the place.
So what's one of the most difficult situations you've had to overcome, and how did you overcome it in your coaching career?
Well, I would say being caught up in the day-to-day and losing sight of what's most important to me, and that is the relationship with the players. You know, being in meetings all day, and then they only get a chance to see you for 90 minutes to 2 hours on a practice field, and you're yelling and screaming. I mean, that's no way to build a relationship with a player.
Yeah.
And so I think I lived that in my career and said, you know, that's not what I want. I think, you know, after my 5th year at Notre Dame, I said, you know what, I got to stop doing all these meetings and all of these other collateral responsibilities with the job, because I'm a figurehead and I want relationships with the players. That was probably a watershed moment in my career.
It seems, for outside looking in, it seems like you've changed your vibe a little bit. You've become a little calmer. It seems like you're having a more fun.
Yeah.
I'm talking like from about like 2015 onward. It
Yeah.
seems like you've kind of calmed down. I don't know if you think that's true, but
No, I think that
not
that's
saying
been,
that you were super intense to me.
but I think you know, when you take on all those responsibilities on a day-to-day basis, you know, giving up those responsibilities and then having the mindset of, look, I'm not in charge of that. What I'm in charge of is helping you do your job. And I think kind of diffusing that and giving everybody the empowerment to do their job and making sure that they have the resources necessary to do their job so I can do what I love to do. And it was 2015, 2016, you know, right around that time where I had that kind of, I don't know what it was, an epiphany, a moment. I think it was the losing season at Notre Dame.
What was it, 2015?
2016.
2016.
You know, and then since that time, coincidence or not, I've had 7 consecutive 10-win seasons. And I think understanding that has really been, you know, a big moment in my career.
Do you have like a regret or a mistake in your career where you're like, I wish I would have done that differently, or that moment was tough?
You know, the biggest regret that I probably have in my career would be, you know, the Declan Sullivan situation, where I didn't question some people on, the current conditions of the day, But I was a young head coach and I was being led around, and I said, okay, if you guys think it's okay, let's go. I think probably that's my biggest regret, because somebody lost their life.
What's a proud moment in your career where you really thought to yourself, this is something that I'm really going to cherish as I reflect back on my career?
I think more than anything else that every job that I've taken over, I've left the program better than when it was given to me. Every program, when I took it over, was not at its best, and now they are in a great position. So that means that the work that I've done, the building of culture, the building of systems and organizations, have been great foundational pieces. I'm proud of the work that I've done.
Why football? What do you love about the game of football?
Oh, the lessons that it teaches to 18 to 21-year-olds, that they don't know the lessons that they're learning. They don't know quite what that's going to do for me later. But I've been around so many players 10 years later, 20 years later, 25 years later, that will come back and go, I didn't know what that meant then, but I do now. And so it's got to be the lessons, the things that the game teaches, and not just the X's and O's, but the things that I talked about, the relationships, the camaraderie, the sacrifices, the disciplines, the habits that it teaches, the way you need to think on a day-to-day basis. And so maybe you don't know it, for the first few years, but as you get further away from the game, you can go back to it and go, you know what? Man, that was genius what we did. And how we did that has helped me today. And that's what I love about the game.
All right. Are you binge watching any Netflix show, TV show, anything like that right now?
I don't normally have the time to do it, but if I did, my wife and I binge watched one series, and I can't even remember what it was, but we did. So I can say that I entered the binge watching.
You did a TV show.
Yes, because it's cool.
Yeah.
So many people have done it. So I said, listen, sign me up for at least one binge watching Netflix series, and it was a detective.
Mindhunter.
Yes.
There you go. I see some books on your shelf. What book would you recommend to aspiring leaders?
Lincoln on Leadership. I know it sounds like, Lord of the Flies to many, like summer reading, but it is like great summer reading to start, because it gives you these basic axioms of what true leadership is about. And it's kind of what I said earlier. It's not about being popular. It's not about the really good things that can happen to leaders. It's actually the tough things that you have to eat. And leadership, obviously, for Lincoln was obviously the toughest, dealing with, the Civil War, right?
Yeah.
And how difficult that was. So I think it's a great place to start.
Who are you leaning on for advice?
I've had the non-traditional path to this, in a sense that, I didn't come up with, I was the offensive coordinator at a Division I. I started as a Division II head coach. Back then, I would listen to basketball coaches or baseball coaches or whoever that I could just learn from. So there's not one particular. I've gravitated towards and built a relationship with Bill Belichick. But I wouldn't say, hey, Bill Belichick's my guy and I only listen to Bill Belichick. It's just so many different coaches that I've listened to, and whether it's a high school coach or a women's basketball coach. And I think that's been really helpful for me.
This is a silly question. What is your favorite movie, if you had to pick one?
Saving Private Ryan.
Great movie.
It's just I don't know, it just hit me differently at that time.
Intense.
Very intense.
Yeah.
And the personal story, like at the end, make sure that you've earned this.
Last meal on earth.
There's definitely going to be New England style clam chowder. And I say New England style because we can't do the other kind.
Yeah.
So New England.
What is the other kind?
Manhattan.
Okay.
They kill it with tomato sauce.
I've never
in
even
it.
heard that. Yeah.
So New England style clam chowder and pasta that is done in an Italian way. And when I say an Italian way, it's not overdone. It's not too much.
Simple.
It's very simple, like a pasta norma.
Yeah.
Like very, fresh.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
And it would be that, or it would be a Maine lobster.
Nice. All right, if you could travel anywhere in the world right now, snap your fingers, you and your family or whoever you want to go with, where do you go?
I'm probably going to Lake Como.
Nice. It's better than that.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Not that I can think of.
Coach, I appreciate you. Thank you for taking the time with me. I hope you go 13-0 for however many games there are, and then I hope you play Notre Dame, and I hope we win. I'm sorry.
That's okay. You should have that allegiance.
I have to. Yeah,
no doubt.
But seriously,
Thanks,
thank
Will.
you so much.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
Good being with you.
That was kind of a weak clap.
There you go.
Deeper questions.
Uh-oh.
Why not? Whatever.
My golf game.
My golf game shit. You yelled at me one time in
This
practice, and you go, after I corrected it, I was supposed to be in like man versus cover 2, and I corrected it very quickly, and you go, thank you. And then you stopped yelling at me. I was like, all right.
All right,
this is
we're
good.
good. We're good.
Why didn't you start me? You're like, well, I do have an answer for you.
I do. I could start somewhere, but I'm not sure where.
Yeah.